Good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'm Jim Mann, the chairman of the Oconee County Republican Party. And we also have Miss Jody Gollin, the chairwoman of the Oconee County Democratic Party. Jody, please stand. So I think this is appropriate time to say thank you for coming out tonight. Of course, we'd like to have more. I told Caleb we'll have to get everybody together for a family picture afterwards to make it really look impressive in the paper. But I'm sure every one of you are here tonight because you care about good government. You care about Oconee County. You care about the citizens of Oconee County. And I appreciate the opportunity to get together with county council outside of their normal meeting hall and just have an opportunity to pose some questions. Appreciate Riley's agreeing to be our moderator tonight. So we definitely have a neutral setting, I think, which is good. And bipartisanship, working towards those goals is also good. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the agenda. If everybody please stand, I'm going to start with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing while I say a prayer followed by a moment of silence. Our Father, we pray that you bless us tonight. Bless those who participate. Give them a calmness of spirit. Father, may everything that we do and say be an honor and glory to you. Thank you for our country. We pray for Israel. We pray for our neighbors. We pray for those that would have wisdom in resolving conflict at home and abroad. And I pray that you continue to bless this great nation that we all call home. It's in your Son's name, Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. If everybody will please remain standing for a short moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. Again, I want to welcome everybody tonight. Especially want to welcome our security guards in the back and our sergeant of arms. We have Levi as our sergeant of arms, Sheriff Mulwee, Sheriff Crooks as our security. And if you're not a regular attendee to Republican county parties, we run a pretty tight ship. So during the Q&A, I would appreciate if everybody showed a great deal of respect for these gentlemen that are answering questions. They've agreed to kind of be blinded, hit from the side with questions they've never seen. They could probably anticipate some of them, though. But please show all respect, especially for our moderator, Riley. He's going to be presiding over the event, and we don't expect anybody to get out of line. And that's the way we typically run things, and so we'd appreciate everybody's cooperation with that. All right, without any further ado, I want to turn it over to our Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Riley Morningstar, which I'm sure needs no introduction beyond that. And he's going to moderate this event tonight for us.
Could you bring the microphone over here? Is that okay? Everybody get comfortable. Thank you. Appreciate it. I feel like I know just about everybody in here, but I'm Riley Morningstar. I'm the news editor of the Journal, and I appreciate each of you coming out. I've gone ahead and told Jim that if you don't like what you get, I will personally refund each ticket that was bought. So the goal on my end is not to interject, but to guide the conversation, and we have plenty of questions that I received. There have been just a few changes on my end on how we're going to run this. I received 118 questions in total, so I did. Absolutely. Some of them are variations of one another, and if I just sat here, I didn't go to Clemson for mathematics, but we would be here all night. And to just be respectful of everyone's time, this is kind of how I'm going to lay it out. For full transparency, I have got all 118 questions right here, and I'm going to hand them over to Jim at the end of the night. Anybody that's interested can read them, and if you feel like I didn't get to your question, I encourage you to reach out to the council members. So that again is to be up front so everyone can see every single submission. And on the newspaper's end, we intend to publish all of them Thursday in print. Those are also going to be going to the council members that attend the meeting. So again, if you have questions and you feel like I didn't get to whatever your submission may have been, I encourage you to reach out to them. And I'm sorry, I'm on my phone and how far away it is from me. But I will not be drawing these questions out of a hat. I've gone ahead and formatted them between budget, Sewer South is a big one, planning, economic development, and just a few odd and ends that I want to make sure we hit. And again, both the candidates have up to 2 minutes to respond. I've told them that, not saying to rush the process, but if they move through the questions, don't feel obligated to fill the 2 minutes because we will try and hit as many as we can. So with that said, we're going to open up public comment at 8:30 or whenever we're done taking questions. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Councilman Julian Davis. He represents the Westminster and Long Creek areas on Oconee County Council. He is married and has 2 children in the public school system here, and he owns an insurance agency that's right across the street from Northside Elementary. So I don't know if you want to stand up, but I feel like everybody knows you. Okay, there we go. And then we have, Councilman John Elliott. He represents the Salem and Kiwi Key areas on Oconee County Council in the District 1 seat. He lives in Kiwi Key with his wife, Marcia, and is a graduate of the Citadel and Clemson University. He has been on council since 2019 and won re-election in 2022. Since Councilman Elliott is the most recent chairman, we're going to let him give the opening statement that can go up to 2 minutes. I think I'm going to just do a timer on my phone, and that should be audible enough for when it's going to cut. So with that said, you're on the clock.
Can anybody hear me? Okay. So first I want to thank Mr. Mann and the Republican Party for inviting us and holding this town hall. Also want to thank Mr. Riley Morningstar for being the third party to run the meeting. I think that's a great idea. One concern I have tonight, and I hope it's everyone's concern in here, I want our thoughts and prayers to be with the Israelis, the Americans over there. Pray for them. Keep them in your thoughts. Pray for administration. Pray for Congress to do the right thing. In my opinion, the right thing is we have special forces. We drop them in there, and we get our Americans out of there. And while we're there, we go up those terrorists, and we put a butt up their fanny. Because this is terror. This is awful. They're killing babies, raping women, chopping off heads of children. They're barbaric. We cannot put up for that. We need to do something more than just talk. So please pray for our administration and Congress and those Americans trapped over there as hostages and those Americans that can't get out and those Israelis, these innocent people that don't deserve this. So that's what's on my mind tonight, and I wanted to speak it, and I hope it's on your mind too. Other than that, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. What I've learned the last 5 years is I love to take questions from the citizens of Oconee County because I find out what's on their mind, what's bothering them, what they like, what they don't like. I wish we had this crowd every council meeting. I wish people would come to council and speak up. I know there's intimidation that goes on.
That's 2 minutes, I'm sorry. If you want to finish, go ahead.
Anyway, please come and please participate. 2 minutes is very short. Thank you.
I'll have Frankie tackle you if you keep this up.
The 2 minutes is probably more for me than it is for you. So Thank y'all for being here. There's a lot of things going on in Oconee County tonight and this week, so appreciate y'all being here. So I just wanted to kind of mention, because I also represent Oakway, Madison, Return, Richland, and then Long Creek, Westminster 1 and 2. So I can't leave out Oakway. I'm trying to make sure Tony doesn't throw something at me over here. So I need to make sure that our fellow Oakway people in the house tonight. So, but appreciate y'all being here. I've been on council 7 years, so I sit back and I look at, pictures of my children when I first started and the hair when I first started that I used to have. So, a lot of things that I have learned during my time here. This is a job that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment to learn things that you honestly never really cared about when you were younger. You lived here, you grew up here, you didn't know really a lot of things that went on. And one of the reasons why I got involved in politics was to really make sure that Oconee County continues to thrive and be the great county it was that I grew up in. I graduated Clemson and planned on running away, and found out Oconee County is absolutely the best place to raise my 2 children. And that's why I'm involved in politics. That's why I'm here. It's definitely, I had somebody tell me that they saw online one time I was padding my pockets. I said, let me tell you, county council unpads your pockets real quick. It takes time away from your business, takes time away from your family. My family's at home eating supper tonight, and I'm standing here because I do care about this county. And so there's a lot of things going on. Rifle season opens up tomorrow. I need to, hang on, this is important. Rifle season opens up tomorrow. My son's at home getting his rifle sighted in. So, and I'm here talking to you because I care about this county. So I just kind of want to mention there's a lot of sacrifices that we do up here, and we do it because we love this county. Thank you. Why don't you hold up the little yellow hammer, and the next time if I go to 3 minutes, you can throw it at me and we'll be good.
Yeah, I'm finding out the alarm on this is not nearly as loud as I want it to be. So I think I am going to convert to the hammer.
You're just like, beep.
Yeah. So no pun intended, but to address the elephant in the room, the first question for you, Mr. Davis, did you view that there were any ethical or legal reasons why all county council members could not attend and participate in this town hall? And your 2 minutes starts now.
We're not the first county council to ever do this. Being in part of Association of Counties, Appalachian Council of Governments, there is multiple town halls that happen, not just in South Carolina, but other places. And you're going to see more and more government standing up and talking in front of people, because media, unfortunately, is disappearing, and it becomes Facebook or fake book or whatever you want to call it. And a lot of people are getting their information from there, but not everybody has Facebook. And when you lose your newspaper or anything like that, you start to lose touch with your government, and your government does whatever they want to do. And so the town halls allow us to come out here, just like precinct meetings, to be out here in the public eye and answer questions. And that's why I brought my little library up here. So there was nothing that would keep up here. I think the biggest misconception of a quorum together is taking action. And I've been on council 7 years. I've been in, last month we were in quorum 3 times together with industries and different things like that. We weren't discussing county business, but we were there together in the public. This is a little different, so it requires that extra agenda and things like that. I think for clarity, next time there just needs to be a statement, no action will be taken. And I think it's on one of those bottom ones. So I think that's important to the public to know that, we're here to discuss. Nobody's up here to throw things at each other. And I think that's what the original thought process was. I enjoy meeting people from multiple different precincts. So thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll stick with that for now. So like I said in the opening statement, I've got all the questions really categorized, and we're going to go now to Mr. Elliott, and we'll probably go ahead and ask this to Mr. Davis too, but you'll go second. Mr. Elliott, in your mind, who is the author and owner of the 2023-24 fiscal year 23-24 budget as it stands right now?
The chairman, Mr. Matt Durham. It started out with the budget committee back in March. Actually, it starts in February. We start with a strategic plan to determine what things need to be accomplished in the county in the coming year. And then from there, Mrs. Bright puts together a budget. We start having budget committee meetings, all 5 council members. Unfortunately, Mr. Durham was, at that point, was still suspended. Was still suspended. When he came back on in May, I think, April, May, he started looking at the budget. Without any more budget committee meetings, he started massaging it. It did some good things, I think, but and then turned around and cut the budget at the last minute in June. If you watched the meeting, you heard me ask Mr. Root, is it legal to change the complete budget after the third public hearing or second public hearing on third reading? He said it can be challenged by the Attorney General. It was an illegal budget. He realized that in July, August. He went back, basically came back to close to the same budget we started out with, excluding the step and scale, but he put it together without our input, so it's his budget. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. To Mr. Davis, I'm going to ask, again, a variation of what I just asked Mr. Elliott. One, did you have, this can just be yes or no if you wouldn't mind, did you have any prior knowledge of the budget changes that happened on June 6th before Mr. Durham made the motion to?
No.
Okay, and then here's your 2-minute question. What were your thoughts in real time when you saw that unfold, again, on June 6th to throw, this is the question, the way it was submitted, to quote, throw out the existing budget and replace it with a heavily amended 22-23 budget? And your 2 minutes starts now.
I think the intent was to really pause and just throw something in so we could meet what the requirement is in the state. You run a very dangerous timeline of throwing together budgets, which is why, I hear the word, we rubber stamp budgets. I have never, since I've been on council, rubber stamp budgets. The budget that was coming forth, we'd worked on 2 years ago. So, these are things that we continually work on, and that's why you start the budget process realistically as soon as you finish the other one. This one will be a little different next year because we are in it so late. But you learn a lot about the next year's budget in the millage process. So I think the intent was, we don't really know I guess they really didn't know what they wanted to do. So the best thing is just to pause it and throw something together. So what it caused is a lot of heartache, confusion, especially, I'm confused and I'm sitting up there. So when I go back and look at the budget from what it is, and I'm not saying we did it right for the last 20 years, because there's always needed changes, and we've made some changes through there. But one of the things, and I told John when he got on, I don't think it's fair to change the budget after the public hearing on the third reading. And it happened twice with prior council, and it leaves the public sitting there going, I'm not even sure what happened. So to do it again, I think it took some time to go, I'm not even sure what happened that night. So it's not fair to the public. It's not transparent. I'm not saying what we do in our budget process is perfect, but at least it has a little bit more clarity moving forward.
Thank you. All right, now back to Mr. Elliott. With your background in accounting, what was the impact of that budget vote on county offices, in your opinion?
Well, good budgeting, if you're gonna give people an increase, and we did give the sheriff's office, emergency services, the fire department significant increases, which I applaud Mr. Durham for doing, but he didn't budget it for the whole year. Good budgeting, you budget salary increases for the whole year, even if you're not gonna pay them starting at the beginning of the year. Because right now, we have a budget increase built in for next year that we're already looking at. We don't know if we're gonna have enough growth to cover that without a tax increase. And so he should have built in the entire increase, even if he wasn't gonna start paying it to October, November, or January. So from an accounting standpoint, that was a huge mistake that we'll have to pay for next year with either growth in the county or increased taxes.
Can I get a minute on that one?
You got 50 seconds.
Good. You know, if that budget that was passed in September had been passed in June, like it normally has, it would have been almost $2 million higher. So doing it and delaying it does make the budget look less. But when you have unfunded, in my opinion, mandates that you got to fund the following year, you're going to see those increases. So I think that's one of the things we've looked at, unfunded positions. And when we've gone through a year, if you're in business, you're going to have unfunded positions. You don't just burn that money, you save that money, and we use it as a fund balance to help this county's financial situation continue to improve.
All right, thank you. We'll stay with you, Mr. Davis. This question, I think it could, I'm going to add a little bit more, hopefully, clarity on this. The question is, how many employees have resigned from the county government since the announcement of this current budget? That is the question, but do you know how many, I guess, to get to the root of the matter is how many people resigned because of what happened in the budget? That is a very vague question, but if you could narrow it down, I think the audience would appreciate that.
You know, personally, I don't know of any. You know, we've always had open positions through there. I mean, I'm just looking back through sheets that we've gotten with, you know, updated open positions. So we're all well aware of where our shortage is. And that also helps us with our salary increases and things like that when we've really worked since day one I got on council to really focus on the sheriff department. And I think, you know, I asked Sheriff if I could share this, not just here, but in public, but he talked about, you know, the last 3 years has been the largest raises that the sheriff's department's ever gotten than his previous as council. And that was before this one. And, you know, this one had some very substantial raises. I would have liked it to have a lot more in that 5, 10, 15 year. But Oconee County Council has been committed to backing the blue and hiring the best officers. A lot of them are friends, but I'm grateful that this budget included that, because I would have liked it to include it in June, because that pay would have started. And as we know with this economy, we need that pay as soon as we can. So I'm very appreciative of the pay increase that was put in this budget, and also appreciative of councils prior to their commitment to the sheriff's office and to fire and emergency services as well.
Thank you. We're going to do a few more questions on the current budget and then overall the philosophy of the county and how you all see that. This one is from Mr. Elliott, and I kind of remember your comments in the meeting, so if you'll just bear with me. This one's a little bit of a longer question. On June 6, Mr. Durham brought to the council meeting his budget amendments written on what looked like a napkin. Only Mr. Durham had a copy of his proposed amendments. This lacked transparency in an extreme way. Was this legal? It was a short time ago that Mr. Durham wanted to look at the budget line by line. Now Mr. Durham is happy to have a budget written by one person and only one person had a copy of it. A reference to Nancy Pelosi was made, and it seemed appropriate to this instance. We have to pass it in order to know what's in it, since Mr. Durham did not bring copies for anyone to review. What are your comments, and would you like to just, I guess you remember what you said in that meeting. So your 2 minutes starts now.
Well, the name calling started first. He called me Democrat and called me Pelosi. So when he comes out with a napkin and nobody's seen it, but we're here to pass it, I said, well, Nancy Pelosi once said, you have to pass it to see what's in it. So I'm sure everybody remembers that quote from Nancy Pelosi. And I asked the question, or Julian, I'm not sure which one of us asked the question. I'm not Julian, that night so foggy because it was a complete surprise. But one of us asked Mr. Mize and Mr. Hart, had they seen it, or did they have a copy of it? And I think the answer was no, they didn't have a copy of it, and yeah, maybe they saw it. So I don't think they'd seen it, but that's my opinion. So I think it was Mr. Durham, and here again, I think it was illegal. Mr. Root kind of verified that, but he said somebody had to challenge it to make it illegal. But hopefully, we've all learned, including Mr. Durham, not to do that again. Thank you.
Thank you. This one is for Mr. Davis now. Here's the question. It appears that the bottom line number on this budget is about to be $91 million. Do you think that number will go up or stay at $91 million? I assume they're talking about this fiscal year, but that's where the question ended. And your 2 minutes starts now.
I mean, the budget usually pretty much stays the same. You know, we haven't spent 100% of the budget since I've been on council. So there was this, all this falseness that we have overspent. And during my time on council, we have raised taxes. We have also lowered taxes multiple times to where pretty much the majority of everyone has seen a decrease in their tax bases. So that speaks volumes to industry that we have coming in there, but it also speaks volumes to the commitment of council to make sure that our tax base is spread out. It's not, when you actually look at the amount of taxes personal property pays, your house pays, it's very minimum to run this county. So, you know, that number's not going to change. I don't see a budget amendment coming in there, so I'm actually so tired of amendments, and I finally got a budget book, because normally we have a budget book and we change a page or two here or there during the budget process. I think those trees that they're cutting down in some of the subdivisions were for our budget amendments. So, you know, I think as we see this budget is here. It's time to start working on next year.
Thank you. So to kind of move away from the budget that was just passed, this is a few, 50,000 foot view questions. This one is for Mr. Elliott. With the current budget cuts combined with a history of neglect of county buildings and equipment, I have concerns about the future. What are the budget line items for, quote, breakdown maintenance, routine maintenance, and preventative maintenance for county buildings and equipment at each operational department? What was the percent change year over year? Is the funding adequate to prevent large surprise emergency funding needs? Those might be a little bit more heavy on details, but answer that how you see fit. Your 2 minutes starts now, sir.
So I'm going to give you a 40-foot level answer to that. Number one, when I came on the council, I talked to Mr. Davis and Mr. Kane, and I said, we need to quit kicking the can down the road. We need to have a replacement plan for certain things, equipment, capital, whatever, because in prior councils, they only spent when there was an emergency. They waited till the fire truck broke down before they decided to go buy a new one. So we implemented that, I guess the first year I was on council, which I believe that's the only year, Mr. Davies, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's the only year since I've been on council that we've increased taxes. And we increased taxes so we could catch up with our equipment and then put in a 5-year plan to where we rotate out vehicles, other capital equipment. Buildings, we're probably still kicking the can down the road. I guess the example that everybody knows about is the old courthouse. Every council since the new courthouse was built kicked that down the road. Now, there was a gentleman, or several gentlemen, that said they were going to take that property and turn it into a hotel, a bed and breakfast. Well, that never happened, and as council waited for that to happen, now we have no roof, we have trees growing in it. We probably have people sleeping there. I don't know that, but I would guess probably do. So we're now going to look at not kicking that can down the road. I don't believe it's in the budget, but we are going to look at demolishing that building and making a parking lot out of it, because we need more parking for the courthouse. We need more parking for downtown Walhalla, and the church across the street needs more parking too. So hopefully everybody can share in that. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Davis, with our current level of property tax millage, can we expect anticipated operational costs and maintenance costs to be covered without major, I believe this is major tax increases in 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years down the road?
Well, I'm going to guess that's probably has to do with infrastructure maintenance, sewer maintenance, and everything like that. So that's what I'm going to take that means when somebody's talking about maintenance. So one of the things that I talked about with council is, as we have gotten into the business of sewer, we better set aside millage for maintenance of that sewer moving forward. So you're creating cost, but you're not creating an income to cover the cost. So just like when you buy a car and you go out there and you think it's the greatest car you've ever had, but it maxes your budget out, well, unfortunately, cars break down. And that's the thing that we're looking at moving on here. We've got new sewer in the ground. It's going to be great, but if you're John and me both represent municipalities, and we have spent a lot of our ARPA money to help. We were the first county. There's only 3 counties in this state that use their ARPA money to assist municipalities with infrastructure. I'm proud of that. I know John's proud of that with that water project, because it helped not only the city, but it also helped those outside the city. And it was water projects, water distribution projects. And you know, obviously how important those are. So, when we do these things, we're gifted money from the state, and we try to not only assist us, but assist those that support, because the municipalities are also part of this county. They also pay county taxes. There's all this whole falsehood that municipalities live on their own. They don't. We work together, as y'all see with the fire contract. So moving forward, I think we're doing some great things. I think we need to make sure that councils understand what's in front of them, so all of a sudden you're not staring down $10 million in maintenance with nothing but a tax increase to pay for it.
All right, we're going to do one more on the budget for now, and both of you are going to be asked this question so we can kind of move the conversation along. Mr. Elliott, this submission would like you to name the top 3 priorities of the county government and ask whether they are properly funded. If school funding is not one of them, why not?
Okay, so when you ask the question about the county, and of course the school district is different from what I consider the county. We do approve the school district's budget, but that comes from the school board. So we just basically, when Mr. Davis says we just spread water on it, I mean, that's all we do with every once in a while we'll have a conversation, but we don't dive deep into the school operation. But if we include the schools, yes, it's one of those top priorities. For the county, it's a recruitment tool. I came from Spartanburg County, originally from Chester County. So I've got experience in 2 other counties in South Carolina, and I think the Oconee County school system is in good shape. I know there's some complaints. There's always going to be complaints. No school district's perfect. But I think our school district is a recruiting tool for the county, because when industry looks at Oconee County, they look at the school system. Because when they want to bring in their top management, the top management wants to have their kids in a good school. So it's part of recruitment. I think a top priority right now is sewer. as you know, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a little while. But I think that's a top priority to help us grow. And I think another priority is, and you probably heard this from me if you paid attention to the county council or the paper, is development standards. Because along with sewer, we've got to control development. We can't have uncontrolled development in this county, or we're all going to want to move. And I know no one wants to move, but we don't want to become what some of us came from. We want to enjoy our lives, our community, our lakes, our rivers, our mountains, our streams, our waterfalls. So those, I think, are the three top priorities. And I'm trying to make development standards top priority. It's not a top priority with everybody on council right now. But I'm not going to be quiet any longer. I'm going to keep harping on it till we do something about it. Thank you.
All right. And do you want me to repeat the question, or are you
No,
okay?
that's good.
All right.
I just have to make sure when you slam your hand on the desk that I'm awake, not sitting down here writing stuff down. So that's. No, it's good. We get emotional sometimes because you spend a lot of time in this business, and you want to get stuff accomplished that's important to you. Talking about priorities, one of the biggest things that I saw is making sure, and Paul Kane had a huge hand in this with the South Carolina Association of Counties. So I want to give a big props to him and Association of Counties for getting our local government fund. And a lot of people don't even know that obviously we get money from the state, and our local government fund was severely underfunded, which relied on more personal property taxes at home. Oconee County's blessed because we've got a lot of industry around here, and we're third lowest taxed in this area. But with the local government fund fully funded, and that's props to your representatives. I know Bill Sandifer was big in that as well, and making sure that they were giving us the money that we deserve. Now, I'm going to say one of my top priorities is roads, and that's not only as a partnership with county roads, but also state roads. More money is coming in from the gas tax in the last year than came from the last 2 years. So that's huge props. I'm appreciative of that. It sucks. I had to go all the way around Highway 11 being paved, but it's part of it, and I'll take that. My truck will appreciate that. So, economic development, we're very blessed with a very low unemployment rate, but we definitely got to keep the throttle down there. Speaking of economic development, I know we'll touch base, so I'm not going to go too deep in that until later. In quality of life, you're here, and I'm here for quality of life. I like to hunt. You build me 40 or 50 track homes around my farm, they're probably not going to like me firing off my rifle all the time. So, but quality of life is extremely important to me.
All right. Are you all still good to keep going? Good? Okay. We're going to shift over to employee pay, and I'll just provide just a quick tidbit of background. I believe it was last Tuesday night, the council block, so Councilman Durham, Mize, and Hart approved a $59,000 salary study, I guess, a time use and salary study out of a firm at Tallahassee, Florida. Administrator Amanda Brock told me that should be back around March or April of next year. So it'll probably return in the thick of your budgeting. So to employee pay, and this is going to be asked of both of you, and we'll just stay with Mr. Davis and Mr. Elliott, then we'll go to you. So Mr. Davis and Mr. Elliott, both of you have served as chairman of the Oconee County Council, and evidently there have been problems building with the pay levels or ranges in some county jobs over the years. Why did you not address the issue instead of just approving above inflation and cost of living general across the board increases prior to this year? And your 2 minutes starts now, Mr. Davis.
We've done a lot more than that. So we've blessed to throw some ARPA money that way, also some raises. We took some heat for 3 straight years of raises. We also addressed a lot of issues with pay. especially with sheriffs and fire. And we did so without tax increases. And I don't know if y'all follow other governments like I do. We also, during that time period, the state passed an agricultural tax exemption where poultry houses were no longer taxed. That was a $438,000 tax decrease. Okay, living in an agriculture area, that's awesome. But I don't know how many counties had to have tax increases to make up that difference. But we didn't, and we kept right on going. So that was 2 years ago. Again, I think it was great, a great ag exemption, needs to happen, needs to continue to happen. I address pay by looking at the positions, looking at the studies that are done out there, Association of Counties puts there, and you'll hear me talk about Association of Counties a lot. It's a lobbying group for you, the citizens. It's not for the county. Yeah, and so I'm telling you to pay attention to what South Carolina Association of Counties does. We're a member, and I'm not sure who's on the board. I was on the board for a number of years, but we talk about open positions: road department 8, sheriff 13, OLEC, the correction center 8, emergency services 7. It's pretty easy to see where the issues are. How do you address? You address them by seeing what the competitive pay is out there for the surrounding area. You don't need a $60,000 or even if it was a $10,000 study to tell you how much you need to pay your officers.
Do you want me to repeat the question, Mr. Elliott?
No, I have it.
Okay. Your 2 minutes is starting now.
So every year I've been on council, we've given the employees across the board increase. Last year we gave the employees a 6% increase. I think we should have given them a 9%, but that's all we could afford. The pay since COVID hit, McDonald's raised their pay to $15 an hour starting. I think Walmart's even more than that now. It's been phenomenal, which is the effect of this hyperinflation area that we've been through the last couple of years. And so some of our starting pay, especially on our lower paying jobs, are not competitive anymore. So that's what we're seeing, and Mr. Davis didn't say it, but right after we did away with the salary of the step and scale salary increase in the budget, we lost some roads department people, and the comment I made was, Mr. Davis and I are going to have to learn how to fill potholes. And I was pretty serious about that because we had a lot quit real quick. The step and scale not only would have rewarded people that have been there just a year or two, but what the major problem we have is that people have been there, experienced people, been there 5, 10, 15, 20 years, are not making what's competitive. And so those folks are now highly sought after, and we're losing those folks. And that step and scale was going to address that, because if you've ever been in business or ran any kind of business, no matter what, I'm not going to say they're the most valuable, but it's hard to replace experience with new people. It takes a year and a lot of jobs to get somebody up to where they're doing a quality job. In my experience, it costs $100,000 to train somebody at a $40,000 job, because that's what it takes. And so we're now looking at a depleted workforce in the county, and so we're being forced. I think a step and scale should have been put in years ago. Ms. Brock has worked on it for 2 years now. She went over the step and scale with 49 departments, all 49 department heads, individually. This past year, they all approved it. I think the sheriff was a little shaky about it, but he was okay. And so all of a sudden they did away with it and said, we're going to pay somebody $60,000 to tell us what we already know. We don't pay our people enough, and that's just stupid. Thank you.
Can I get 30 seconds on that?
I'll give you there's a question that I'm about to ask you that will fit right into that.
Okay.
Can you comment on the $60,000 study that was approved? And in your opinion, what is the likelihood that those results will be ignored?
Well,
And your 2 minutes starts now.
First off, it's a great company. They're doing the study at Clemson right now. So keep your eyes on Clemson to what that study is going to show, and I can promise you it's not going to tell you the pay needs to go down. So to me, you paint yourself in a corner with a third-party person coming in that doesn't understand quality of life. And I'm sure a lot of us that stayed here, you probably could have made a whole lot more money going somewhere else. And I know that's, where I was. And I'm blessed to be a business owner, blessed to be here. But money's not everything to me. So quality of life, Oconee County is a great place to live. Oconee County is a great place to work for. So that's the reason we haven't had a mass exodus, and we're paying people under that. But there's also employees that have expectations of council, and when they see a council that's helping and moving forward, whether it's 4, 5, 6% or 3% or whatever else it is, at least we're moving towards, and we have a lot of great employees, and they're holding it together, and I'm very appreciative of that. And to address, there was continually some stuff that was thrown out, this $20,000 pay increase. And I'm telling you right now, I don't know exactly which one that was or if there was an issue with that person. But I'm very appreciative of people that's been with the county 10, 15, and 20 years. And touching base on law enforcement guys, I'd rather have a 10-year officer responding to a call supporting a young new officer than I would 5 new officers going in there. The training that's going in place is the best it ever has been, but our officers that have put their life on the line for years and years and years deserve the high pay. Step and Scale was addressing a lot of that 10, 15, 20-year employees. And not just for sheriff, but also for other people, especially in the roads department as well.
Thank you. We're just going to do a few more to keep moving the conversation on the employee pay. So with that said, Mr. Elliott, would it have been more efficient had raises gone out to county workers faster if the council would have left the step and scale plan in place, which was a total of $6 million spread across 3 years, because some people might not be familiar with that. So just to repeat the question, would it have been more efficient had raises gone out to county workers faster if the council would have left the $6 million step and scale plan in place and individually dealt with cases where raise errors were noted? Your 2 minutes starts now.
The short answer is yes. There were probably some need more refinements. That's what I said this last meeting, is we've got from now till next June to take that step and scale, the 5 of us with Ms. Brock, and refine it. Maybe it's not perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. We can get to the point we could agree on it. It was 2.3, I think, each year. So it's going to be 6.6 over 3 years of what we thought we could afford. We definitely could have afforded it this year. Probably we can afford it the next couple of years if we continue to have the growth without having a tax increase. So, yes, it would have been better if we could have implemented it and refined it. But my suggestion this last council meeting is we still have it. Let's don't waste $60,000. Let's take that step and scale and look at the little problems that maybe we need to work out and implement that versus wasting $60,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, this is going to be the last question on this subject. For now, we can always come back to it if there's time. The step and scale pay increase. This does not seem like an effective way to bring the county workers up to where they should be for today's economy. Can you explain the pros and cons of using the step and scale method and why you chose it? I believe it would probably be more beneficial for this question and the person that asked it to, I guess, for you to play devil's advocate and how you see a potential con in the $6 million plan. And your 2 minutes starts now.
mean, the biggest con with, being a business owner, you pay people their value. So it's easy for me to pick and choose and say this employee gets this, and we're able to pay bonuses and do all kinds of stuff. When you're in the government sector, you don't get to do that. So, it's kind of the same thing in the school district. You're paid your time. You may have a teacher that works harder than everybody else, but if you've been there 10 years, you're getting paid 10 years. The only way you're getting paid anymore is for your time being there. Step and Scale was there to really help address compaction. And in compaction, I mean your first year guys coming in, let's say they're coming in at 43, and the guy that's been there 5 years is getting paid 45. You take taxes out of there, what's the difference? It's pennies. So the Step and Scale was really a compaction salary increase geared in a government world that was in hope to be fair. And in business world, it's not always fair. I know it's a dog-eat-dog world out there in the private sector, and you can fire somebody tomorrow. In the world of government, you have to continue to have great employees, build morale, and you have to be fair. And that's the one thing we've done. I'd like for our roads department to make well more than DOT ever. And we got the greatest roads department ever. But it's just one of those things is what can we afford to do without causing a stress across the board with all employees. So what we've attempted to do over these years that I've been on there is to create a fair and equitable process. And yes, some people that's been here 15 years are going to get a good raise because they have earned it.
Thank you. I am going to ask maybe 4 or 5 completely separate questions that were submitted. They're a little niche, but we will get, I'd say 15 to 20 minutes maybe, and then we'll hit Sewer South and the bonding because that was probably the most asked about topic. So I'm going to ask that each of you take 1 minute on this particular question because, again, it's very narrow. Mr. Elliott, what is your position on the issue of closed primaries in South Carolina? Your minute starts now.
When you say closed primaries, you mean that only if you're a registered Republican, correct?
Yes, because I believe the state now you can go and vote in it.
Right. So right now in South Carolina, you can vote in the primary. Well, number one, you don't have to declare in South Carolina. A lot of the northern states, you have to declare whether you're a Democrat or Republican. South Carolina, you don't have to declare that. So you could go and vote in the Republican primary if you're a Democrat, or if you choose, you can vote in the Democrat primary as Republican. Do I think it ought to be closed? No. And I say that because I think if you were Democrats voted for me in the primary, and I thank them for doing that, I think you should have a choice, especially in the primary. You should have a choice of which one you want to, because a lot of times one of the parties doesn't even have people running, especially in the off years. Like when I run, there's no presidential election, and there's nobody running against the governor. So yes, I don't think it should be closed. Thank you.
And the same question to you, Mr. Davis. 1 minute now.
I mean, I've always voted in Republican primaries. I think the bigger problem with that is the amount of people that don't vote in the primary and go up there on their merry way in November and say, hey, I voted for you. And you look and see the turnout is triple. So the bigger issue in whether a primary is closed or not is voter turnout. So I could, I don't cross over on the Democratic side of things. So, to me, I like, a closed primary because it, in my opinion, keeps meddling out of each of the parties. I don't think the Democratic Party wants us meddling in their side of things. And, I think all of us put up great candidates coming forth down to the November election. And that to me is where we all need to focus. Both parties need to focus on voter turnout because it's dismal.
All right, thank you. The next question, I'm going to give 2 minutes apiece. And my mind is a trove of useless information in the 5 years I've been at the newspaper. So if you'll bear with me in trying to provide the background on this, this is about the right to life resolution. Initially, the way that I remember, it was probably February or March of 2021. Mr. Durham, who was in the minority block, if you will, at the time, brought forth a resolution to make the county sanctuary county for the unborn, is the way I believe he phrased it. And as a part of that, I believe that he wanted to have a sign put up at various entrances into the county. And again, if you guys need to take an extra 30 seconds to explain why you voted against that, that's fine, because I can't exactly remember. What I do remember is that was voted down. There was a large turnout. And then at some point in the future, I believe Miss Terry Meyering with the Republican Party came back with a different resolution. I hate that I don't have all the background, but this is the question that was provided, and we'll stay with you, Mr. Elliott. And again, 2 minutes, and I'll give you 15 to 30 seconds for grace on this. Other than being a public statement, what did the Right to Life resolution that you all passed last year actually accomplish?
So it started out not being the right life. It started out being a sanctuary county. The right to life promotes life, not only for the preborn, but for the elderly, for those that are handicapped in certain ways. I remember when Obamacare was being worked on, there was talk of euthanasia for elderly people. Can you believe that? I want to promote the right to life not only for the preborn, but for the elderly. And for those in the middle, we need to encourage life. We need to encourage life, not to fight about it, but to encourage life. And we need to also help those pregnant mothers, single mothers that need help. They need our help. They need our support. A lot of times they have nowhere to turn. And so things happen. So we need to encourage life, not only for our preborn, but for those that have troubles and for the elderly. So that's what it did. It promoted life. Thank you.
And Mr. Davis, other than being a public statement, what did the Right to Life resolution accomplish? Your 2.5 minutes starts now.
My personal opinion of it was the whole resolution was brought to promote division. We have a lot to focus on in this county, and if you're interested on that side of government, you need to take the next step and run for those seats. Not run as a write-in. You actually need to be on the ballot and go do it. Then you can make any kind of resolution that you want that actually has some teeth in it. So when, stuff gets brought before the council that really takes our eyes off what we're trying to do, no matter what each individual's opinion of up there is, it can really deter what this council's job actually is. So, I have my personal opinion of that. I stated in that meeting, and I respect everybody's opinion on both sides of the issue. I have 2 children that I love dearly. I spend a lot of time helping and mentoring children in this area. I think it's pretty clear what my intent of protecting life is. And it's not just when they're born, it's all throughout their life, and not just my kid's life. So taking our eyes off what this council is supposed to do absolutely just handicapped the entire council moving forward and really confused the public. And I had a lot of good conversations with people because of the misinformation that was put out there, of people saying things that were absolutely not true in my personal life about my statement of that. So, I just think our focus needs to be on county business moving forward, and continue to be that way.
All right, and then just 2 more, again, niche questions. Mr. Elliott, I know that you have talked about the airport in the past, and granted it's not in your district, but I think people know that is a priority of yours. The Clemson-Oconee County Airport is a vital service to our upstate, serving several very important manufacturing companies and businesses delivering goods, services, and people. The airport is one of very few areas that make money for the citizens of Oconee County. There is a waiting list of 120 for hangars or aircraft sunsheds for aircraft. Charging $250 to $300 a month, these hangars could be paid off in 5 to 6 years, leaving pure profit for the citizens of Oconee. Although zoning is a dirty word in South Carolina, there are reasons to protect citizens by using zoning. The sound of jets may be the sound of money to you. However, to homeowners living in the flight path, the noise can be horrific. Thus, many airports close because of residential encroachment. Once the airport closes, industry and jobs leave. The only proper and safe zoning around an airport is CIA, commercial, industrial, or agricultural. Residential is cruel to the future landowner that has no idea that he or she is going to have to endure such a noise. Why is it the Oconee County Council is so reluctant to protect the airport and utilize it for profit? 2 minutes now.
Number one, it's the Oconee Regional Airport. It's not the Clemson-Oconee Airport, okay? People say it's the Clemson Airport. It's our airport. Number two, I do want more hangars because we tax the planes that are in those hangars. So there's more money. So it's just not the rent. The rent is nothing. It's the tax on those planes. We've got people that want hangars, that have hangars now. They're renting in Pickens, Anderson County. And so, yes, I do want the airport to build more hangars. The airport's there. And so if you want to build near the airport, you know the airport's there. I mean, I don't know the history of the airport, but it's been there for a while. And so you've got to realize that it's there. We're gonna continue to develop that airport, and it's good for this county. We have industry, like Mr. Riley said, that comes in, flies out. We have prospective industry that comes in and flies out. We have, go down there on a Friday or Saturday of a Clemson football game. It is amazing. These net jets, these jets that you can rent, these professional football players will fly in, Clemson graduates, they'll fly in on those jets, go to the football game, probably stay on a Friday night, spend in a hotel. They'll fly back out on a Saturday night to wherever they're playing football on that Sunday. It's amazing. It brings commerce not only into Clemson, it brings commerce into Oconee County, airports to airports. It's there, so if you want to build a house near it, you should be aware of it. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Davis, this is the final niche question
I
for
don't
right
get
now.
the airport question. I was excited about the airport question.
I can give you 30 seconds.
That sounds good. So the airport is not quite an enterprise fund, so it does require a small amount of taxation. So the goal with all the improvements that we've done out there, and the FAA absolutely loves Oconee Airport, and they see the value in that. So if you want to send a little thank you letter to them, they're funding 90% of those improvements that you see out there. So the state's funding 5%, and y'all in this room are funding 5%. So, and also pay attention to who votes against certain things on the airport, because us two sitting up here have never voted against the airport.
All right, staying with you, Mr. Davis. You were on record during an Oconee County Council meeting saying you would support spending up to $30 million or more to extend a greenway trail from Pickens County into Oconee County. What benefit would you see rank and file working tax-paying Oconee residents receiving from such a trail, especially those who wouldn't live near it? And also the factor in that Oconee already has a variety of trails all across our county. Your 2 minutes starts now.
It was 15, 20, 30 million. So I saw the video. So it got sponsored. So I'd like a little bit of the revenue from that video that was put out there on Facebook. So the actual statement that was made goes back into talking about funding. You know, I don't always love what the government's agreement to fund is out there. And I think everybody sitting in this room can see things that come through the budget. You're going like, what in the world are we funding out there? I mean, if you look and you dive deep into the U.S. budget and, the state budget, it's unbelievable what they're funding out there. So, to me, the reason why I stated that is quality of life's important, and the money that's thrown out there for that actual project went to other counties. So do I think that I would spend 15, 20, 30 million of our personal property taxes on it? No. But if the state or the federal is going to throw 90% of it like they do to their airport, I'll take that all day long. So it's interesting that things are perceived and thrown out a specific way to alarm people, thinking that any of us that are the five of us, our goal is to waste money up there. So I've never seen any other videos that I've portrayed out there toward anybody, but I appreciate it. Unfortunately, you wasted your money, but I appreciate the question because it, again, you go toward Anderson, you look at Swamp Rabbit, you look at the Doodle Trail and all those trails and what it's doing to those areas that were desolate. It's not homeless living on those, it's families biking up and down there. And there was a statement made that you can bike anywhere in this county. I'm not going to say what was going to come out of my mouth because it's getting late. And we're just going, there's the time. Thank you so much, Bill.
All right. I'm going to ask this question of each of you on sewer bonding. And just for the audience, ongoing right now is Sewer South, which is running sewer down from the Golden Corner Commerce Park on Highway 59 down to exits 1 and 2 of Interstate 85. All of that money has already been approved, $12.7 million or so. But right now, it seems like the citizens are either concerned or in favor of the $25 million that Oconee County is weighing on taking out in general obligation bonds or taking in for financing. Last week, the Journal reported that County Administrator Amanda Brock, County Attorney David Root, Councilman Matthew Durham, and Finance Director LaDale Price went up to New York City to meet with, I believe it was Moody's and Standard & Poor to review financials of the county. I don't know if that has been released yet. It was supposed to last week, so
I can read it if it doesn't count for my 2 minutes.
Well, we might just close with that, about that. So this is a question, again, from the audience, and I want each of you, if you would, please answer this. If you were not on Oconee County Council, would you be for or against the bond that is purported for sewer infrastructure and economic development? That's the way I believe it's been phrased. So, Mr. Davis, if you want to go 2 minutes, your time has started.
I mean, I'm a believer in Exit 4. Exit 4 is the best land. It's ready to build. The roads in that area and the exits in that area can help, can actually take that area. If you look at the land between 2 and 1, it wasn't my, I understand the state threw a lot of money at that. So I'm appreciative of that. So, if I'm a betting man, which I don't gamble, so I've never been to Cherokee, to be honest. So if we're just coming out in the blue and throwing everything out, I'll just throw that out. So, but Exit 4 is where I'd put my money because of the land. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist or anybody that's this financial guru to look and tell what industry is looking for. And they're not looking for a terrain. They sure don't want to be right beside a lake. So I think your exits 1 and 2 are going to be more of your development, your stores, your hotels, different things like that. And that's really expensive sewer. I did vote for it, and I'll still stand by that. The $25 million bond actually incorporates the money for exits 1 and 2. The bigger question is I think it's about 6.5 million once we do the bond that is going to go back into economic development. So exits, that's where that $25 million comes from. It's got $12 million to exits 1 and 2 and sewer to exit 4. So it's not $25 million. The bigger question is what's council going to do with the excess money from doing the bond?
Mr. Elliott, would you like to answer that? If you were not a county council member, would you be in favor of this as a county taxpayer?
I think if you look back on it 2 years from now, you realize it's the right thing to do. As Mr. Davis said, I mean, we made a commitment, we being council, maybe not the current council, but the council I was on prior to the current council, to do exit 4. We made a commitment, and it may go all the way back before I was on council, with the state to do exit 1. We're going to be very careful, and I see McPhail in the room. We're going to be very careful not to develop the farmland. The farmland is bread and butter to Oconee County, the biggest industry in Oconee County. We're the #1 producer of poultry, the number 3 or 4 producer of beef in the state of South Carolina. Would I do it again? I think once the details come out, we've got some infrastructure that we need to do for economic development. We also had an audit done of our, as you know, the state last year, right before my primary, changed the voting rules to where everybody can early vote, I think 2 weeks before the election. So that's going to be real important going forward, because I think most people will vote before the day of the election. And that means they'll vote at Pine Street. Well, we had the federal government come in and do an audit a couple of months ago on our security of our voting. And it's not secure right now, the way we do it. If we're going to have people coming in the county for 2 weeks voting in the county council chambers, which is where they voted last year, we need a separate building. We flunked the audit the federal government did. So we've got to build a separate building. It doesn't have to be a big building, but we need to have a separate building dedicated to a secure voting place. Whether we use that money or not for that, I think we probably will. I think we're going to be forced into it. But I think 2 years from now, when you look back, right now we can't give all the details that we know about, but I think once they come out, you'll find out that it was justified. Thank you.
And I think to kind of slim down a few of these questions, what exactly, you kind of broke down $12.7 million for exits 1 and 2. Has the county provided a plan to these bankers in New York? And why has the public not heard item for item what the money is going to be used for? Mr. Davis.
The sewer plan really was identified in the Joint Regional Sewer Authority meeting. And it talked about, what does sewer look like to those areas. So, as you know, Golden Corner Commerce Park has sewer. It was finished in 2017. So it's kind of a false sense that, why hasn't Golden Corner developed? Golden Corner hadn't developed because it wasn't ready to be developed. I would not have purchased land out there. I was not on council when I was on there. Without having a plan to get sewer out there a little quicker. So if Golden Corner was developed, it looked just like industrial park on Highway 11. So I believe that, and I'm committed to that. We actually chose to actually grade the industrial park on Highway 11 because it showed actually a brighter future. I think you can all look out there and agree that was well worth the money that we did out there. We got one site left. We did a ribbon cutting the other day, and I've been involved in every single one of those, and that's a blessing. It speaks volumes to Oconee County as employees. It speaks volumes to our area as a whole. And one of the #1 things that they say when they come here is, I chose Oconee County because the quality of life. When you see, I'll never forget the guy came down here from Baxter, and he showed up to one of the ribbon cuttings with his boat in tow because he had been fishing that morning. And he said, I couldn't fish at the other 3 locations. I can fish in the morning and come to work. No, he also has a jet. So, you know, but, you know, he also has a house on the lake. So you think about these things, this is not little tiny Oconee County anymore.
All right, Mr. Elliott, if this bond is secured and approved, do you expect taxes to go up in 2024? And has the county received a firm interest rate on what the bond will be? Your 2 minutes starts now.
I'll start with the firm interest rate. To my knowledge, we have not. I have seen the Standard & Poor's and Moody and the financial condition, as Mr. Chairman said in the newspaper, we have a great financial condition, and I appreciate him saying that because that's because of the job that Mr. Davis and I and Mr. Kane did, because they looked at last year's financial statements. So I appreciate him applauding us for a great job that we did. We did come out with a good rating. I have not heard about the interest rate. Maybe Mr. Davis has. I have not. I think the trip, business has to be done in person. I know the Taylor Willie this morning, there was an article about why do they spend all the taxpayer money when you can do Zoom or teleconference these days. Well, that's not the way business is done. I mean, I've been in the business and big business, and you just don't go and ask Standard & Poor's and Moody over the phone, do our rating for us. So, I mean, that trip was worthwhile. I think they did a good job from what I was told. Sounds like they had an awful trip back in a van instead of a plane. So they actually got the tickets money back from the plane. So actually they saved us money because the van was only $300.
It was a 1989 Astro van. They had to sleep at the local roadside service station. So I'm just kidding with that one.
So anyway, I think I answered the question.
All right.
I do. Can I touch base on the rating on that? I think it's very important to
1 minute.
to mention. You give me 30 seconds.
Okay. 30 seconds.
To mention, you know, when county took the money to put the broadband or the Focus project out there, it left the fund balance at like $6 million. With John's leadership on council and council's commitment, it has taken that back to, we're close to 14 million where we should be. One little hiccup in government at a $6 million fund balance can bankrupt a county. So that, what we have done the past few years probably saved at least $6 to $7 million in interest. And I know these reports, so I'm not going to bust, because I know the journal's going to publish some things out there too, and these will be public for y'all to look at. But the interest rate is going to be the best interest rate out there. Not only that, people are going to buy these bonds because it's backed by a very financially sound county.
All right, just a few more on sewer while we're on it. Maybe this might just be the last one, so we can keep moving it along. This one was going to be for Councilman Mize, but I would like it just for your district, not in the entire county, and each of you to answer this, and we'll just kind of close the book. Now that I just said that, one very quick question, Mr. Elliott. Would you commit to having the Moody's and Standard & Poor presentation published for the public to be able to see?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you all commit to asking the administrator to make this available by the next county council meeting next Tuesday?
Ms. Brock, will you make this report available for the general public?
I'll be asking. I'll ask her myself. But that was just one of the questions. This is just, like I said, to wrap it up. Again, this was supposed to be for Mr. Mize, but it's applicable to each of your districts. Why is Sewer South important to your voters in your district, Mr. Elliott?
Well, my district, and you did not include Tomasi and Bainland and QE, but they're my district also, so I don't want to leave them out. So it's not just about us lake people, as people call us, but Sewer South is important because it'll provide jobs. Oconee County, I came from Chester County, Chester County was a Springs Mill County. When I graduated college, Springs was gone. Chester didn't have the lake, didn't have the mountains, didn't have the nuclear power plant. There was no job for me to go back to in Chester. There was no job for my two brothers who graduated college to go back to. I wanted to go back, but I also wanted to make a living. We've got 10,000 school kids in Oconee County right now. Most of them, we go to Tri-County Tech or Clemson or wherever they go. They don't come back because there's nothing here, good paying jobs for them to come back to. Sewer South, Exit 4, is going to, and hopefully Golden Corner Park, once we do some work on it, we'll have some good paying jobs for those kids to come back to. I want to go back to where my parents live. Probably a lot of y'all grew up and went back and worked where your parents live. But I couldn't. There was no jobs. There were no jobs. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to provide for them, and there was nothing. So I think sewer, and it's important not only to people that have school kids, but we all have, I mean, my kids aren't products of Oconee County School, and they don't work here either. But I think it's important to all of us that we provide so that our school kids can come back and live with their families and have good paying jobs. Thank you.
And then the same question for you, Mr. Davis, as it pertains to your district only. Why is Sewer South a positive?
Well, keeping the pedal down on economic development is important. But it's also important to make sure we're, expecting the growth to come from there. There was a statement made in the Journal today by the construction crew. Hopefully this provides the growth, because without growth, why'd we put this in the ground? So, it's one of those things that I hear people complain about, the neighborhoods and the subdivisions and different things like that. And 7 years ago, we couldn't get a home built in Oconee County, and now we are setting records and records with the amount of building inspections that we're doing, but we're not growing that group enough. But anyway, I say that with Sewer South comes growing pains as well, and so we need to plan properly. Otherwise, we're going to be in a lot of trouble and spend a lot of money. So, Sewer South, will provide continued economic development for that area, especially, like I said, I'm going to harp on Exit 4 because that's where I see the land for that area. That will make sure that the jobs coming in, those industries are moving from up north. As people continue to say, they screwed it up there, so we're hoping they don't come down here and screw it up. That's another reason why Mr. Elliott's sitting here talking about standards. So it's important to know that it's unfortunate in the world of farming. I live on a farm. It's my family farm. It's still farmed. We have a farm in Hodges as well that we still have cattle on. My daughter's very interested in farming, but I also know that she's probably going to have 2 jobs. So hopefully she'll have a job close, and she can take care of me and the cows as well. So that's the plan at the end of the day. Save the cows.
All right, we've got a little over 30 minutes before public comment opens up. So I'm going to try and hit 2 or 3 for each category that we have, and maybe do a little bit of rapid fire as we get close to that time. We're going to do 2 or 3 on the Oconee County Conservatives, LLC. And for you, Mr. Elliott, if you will, and several of these were intended for Mr. Durham, Mr. Hart, Mr. Mize, but I've tried to tweak them where I can. So, Mr. Elliott, it's been observed at county council meetings that most of the time, Matt Durham, Glenn Hart, and Don Mize mostly vote in a block or a group. Why do you think that is?
That's a setup. I don't know why. Before Mr. Durham came back on council, I was talking to Mr. Mize on the phone probably twice a week. since Mr. Durham came back, I haven't talked to Mr. Mize at all. And it's not because I haven't tried. Mr. Hart, I don't know. So I don't know why. I mean, when I used to talk to Don on the phone, Don Mize, he said he was his own man. He'd make his own decisions. I mean, I felt like he was being honest with me. But so I don't know why that all changed when Mr. Durham came on. Mr. Hart, maybe Mr. Davis can address that because I can't.
If you want to take his final minute before you get your next question, please do, but stick to
so
1 minute.
I don't get 3 minutes?
Nope, we're moving.
Well, I'll say this: the OCC got a lot of people involved that didn't feel like they had a voice in county government, and so in all honesty, the OCC has opened up a lot of doors to people that have communicated with me and talked to me. We disagree on things, and I think that's where the OCC has struggled. Just because you disagree doesn't mean that you're a rhino or uniparty or whatever today's post is. We're all out here together, and if I pull up beside you to help you push your car off the side of the road or change your tire or whatever, I don't make you pull out a card to show me what you are or where you are. We're in this county together. I think with the new leadership, I stood out here and shook his hand. I appreciate them being here tonight. We got differing opinions on some things, and that's okay. I think we're going to be fine moving along together. I've been called a lot of names in my life. It's just part of it. It's part of this job. So I always tell anybody, before you get in this, you better be willing to take a licking. Question is, are you still going to stand up and talk to somebody that may have a differing opinion to you? And I've got a lot of friends because the OCC has quite possibly been the best thing that's ever happened for my campaign next year. So I appreciate that.
So you are going to run for county council next year?
Yes, I'm going to run next year.
All right, there's a tidbit of news there. All right, to kind of wrap this particular subject up, for Mr. Davis, of the 80,000 taxpayers in Oconee County, that's just incorrect. There's 80,000 people that live here. But again, of the several thousand taxpayers in Oconee County, a very small number are members of this local, again, this is someone's question, of this local political action committee. How much controlling power should they have in the county council's decision-making process? 2 minutes.
I mean, I don't think anybody should have controlling factor over any council person. I had somebody ask me one time, before you get up there, how many people do you run by how you're going to vote? I said, none. And they said, what? I said, you'll see all these books over here. Black and white are facts. These are the things, your research is where you base your stuff on. There's only one man that I believe in, and I'll pray before a meeting to give me guidance and patience and a bell that tells you not to say what's fixing to come out of your mouth. And then I also know when I go home to my family that I did the right thing. Have I been perfect on council? Every decision I made was the best thing? No, I've learned a lot. I have not made any big mistakes, but there's some things that I probably could have done differently, and that would have probably made people understand why I made that choice. But government is very confusing. We're in a volatile time, and we're in the world of politic book out there where everybody is your leader. And if you're affected by that, and that's your guidance for being a politician, that you're worried somebody's going to get mad at you, I'm telling you what, if you got 6 friends when you get on this council and you think all 6 of them are going to agree with you, they're not. So I think it's okay. I voted against John. Me and John have had disagreements. He's made me panic because he slammed his hand, but I don't think that was directed to me. But I'm just saying, like me, Paul, and John, it's always, y'all always voted together. Well, that is absolutely not true. We have voted and disagreed. My planning commissioner, Mr. Frankie Pearson's here. Me and him have had disagreements. but he's only hit me once. But you know, we're in this together. If you cannot disagree respectfully, there's something wrong with you. And my wife is always correct. So we'll move on to the next question.
All right, thank you. Again, we're going to try and do a little bit more rapid fire because all these questions I wish I could ask, but we'll just hit where we can. One of the more timely ones that has been talked about in the Planning Commission is the proposed development on Highway 130 up above, I guess the Newry Mill is where it is going to be on the Kiwi River. I think it's, somebody submitted this question. I believe it's 1,900 residential properties, and it is expected, I'm not sure where they're getting this number from, but this submission said up to 3,500 additional cars to the traffic patterns, assuming South Carolina state average of 2.3 cars per household. How will the DOT and DHEC be engaged to assess the impacts of this development and just your general thoughts? And we'll do 90 seconds, if you will, Mr. Elliott.
90 seconds. Okay, so
He doesn't want you to hit the desk again.
so number one, it's 1,900 homes on 700 odd acres of land. So do the math. And it's going to be cookie cutter homes that's going to sell for $400,000 or $500,000, and it'll be houses as close together as me and Mr. Davis. It's going to be on the riverbed and up to 130. I think it'd be more like 4,000 cars, 4,000 to 5,000 cars. I don't know how the highway department's going to look at it. They seem to almost approve everything. I mean, the two dikes, I call them dikes, some people call them dams. There's the Newry dike and there's the dike above there. You can't expand it, even though Tell Willie said a couple weeks ago or a week ago that you could expand 130. You can't. Look at those dikes. You can't make it 4-lane. It's going to be 2-lane. I hope the dikes don't fall in when that many cars get on the dike at one time. But so DHEC here again. You talk about the Kiwi River. I'm not sure how they can control the wastewater, the rainwater, and the drainage that's going to pollute that river. It's going to go right into Lake Hartwell. That's the Kiwi River that feeds Lake Hartwell. I want to make 130, or at least Rochester Highway, which is from Ingalls all the way up to the old Wachovia, Wells Fargo. I want to make that a scenic highway. If you've ever been on that part of 130, it's a view, hopefully you're not driving when you're looking at it, but it's a view that you will not see in the rest of South Carolina. It is absolutely beautiful. And to ruin that view because of somebody wants to be greedy, I mean, at least cut it down to 500 homes and leave enough tree line so it doesn't ruin that beauty. But 1,900 homes with 4,000 or 5,000 cars, I don't know how the State Highway Department could approve that or DHEC to approve it either.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Are you not going to talk about the river boat that we're putting in there to send them down the river into Lake Hartwell so they don't have any cars? There's no cars allowed to get on the river boat. I'm just kidding. All right, sorry.
Mr. Davis, just 90 seconds on that. What can the county do anything to prevent this development from happening?
I think that the development standards that John talks about, you sit around and you talk about it. I'm not interested in telling what, somebody asked me what my district wants, and my district wants to be left alone. We want to farm and we want to have our area. I don't want somebody telling me what I'm doing. But when we start talking about these tract areas, there is some things that the council can do and put forth to talk about green space and talk about offsets and things like that really don't, I don't want to live where my snapper lawnmower gets stuck between two cars, but it's one of those things that is actually very affordable. And as I've seen with a lot of these developments around here, a lot of families are coming in here. It is unbelievably expensive. So when you take one home and you put it on 5 acres that's been out there proposed before, you suddenly take a home that's selling for 200,000 and all of a sudden it's at 300,000. So, you know, it's one of the things as my son's a junior in high school that I talk about his ability to affordably live. He better get that in his head now, because I mean, I see people that are in their 20s and 30s, you know, I guess they make a whole lot more money than I do, that are able to afford $400,000 homes. My worry is, are we getting in a crisis when it comes to retirement time that government is going to have to take care of?
All right, and then staying on the planning theme, Mr. Elliott, our public libraries are out of date and too small. Other conservative counties like Anderson and Pickens improved their facilities and level of operations years ago. Excellent libraries serve families, job seekers, seniors, provide community meeting space, and help with industrial recruitment and other economic development. What are you willing to do to improve our libraries? 90 seconds.
I've been in the Walhalla Library, I've been in the Seneca Library, and we do a good job with what we have. Could we have a larger library in Seneca? Sure we could. I think with technology the way it is and the way it's going to advance in the future, I mean, kids won't be reading books anymore. I mean, they're already reading on their pads and things like that, and they're streaming. You'll be able to stream books. Now, people do need access to computers. I know a lot of libraries have access to computers. A lot of the school systems now providing laptops or whatever you call them, the notepads, to the school kids. So I don't see libraries needing to be expanded. Could we do a better job? Sure we could, but do we need to come out with another $25 million bond and build a big library? No, I don't think we need to. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the economy and economic development, if you will. Mr. Davis, what safeguards are in place to protect Oconee County's rural industry and lifestyle from being encroached by industrial and residential development? And we'll do 2 minutes there.
A lack of sewer. You know, you want to keep development out, you better keep sewer out. You know, with the plan that we've looked at, the sewer out there, there's a false sense that, and there's some comments that were made that houses are going to be able to tie into it. The goal of this is not for residential homes. The goal of Sewer South is for industry and development, obviously some hotels and stuff down on 1 and 2. So it's a false sense to say that you want your home to be tied into this, because you really don't want to. You don't want the cost associated with it if you're looking at impact fees associated with what Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority. So your cost with a septic is pretty much self-explanatory. Your cost with sewer is going to continue to rise because we've got a lot of repairs. Now, I shouldn't say we, but I mean us together with the Joint Regional Sewer Authority have a lot of repairs. So, I mean, realistically, running sewer lines where they don't need to be is going to cause a big issue, because these home developments, they're all built on sewer. So if you don't want these massive home developments, you don't provide them sewer.
I do think at the last 30 seconds, the person is asking, what is the county doing to protect that land?
The goal of all of us should be to buy local, to make sure that your farmers are able to continue to farm. The world of farming, I could go on for like 5 hours to tell you that, you know, it's much deeper than what county government can do to protect farmland. Even if we're zoning agriculture and things like that, it doesn't keep future owners of that land from selling that land. So first off, we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to promote farming, and also keeping our kids involved into it, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are inheriting the land moving forward.
Mr. Elliott, Can you briefly explain the agreement among the Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority Board to raise impact fees on new sewer connections in the county, how it may impact new homes being built in the area, and what, if any, impact this fee hike would have on existing homes? Would this impact existing homes that may be forced to connect to a newly constructed sewer line in the future? 2 minutes.
Well, I think take the last one first. I think the Sewer Commission has made it crystal clear that the new sewer lines, that we're not going to make anybody that's existing with a good septic system go on the sewer. Number two, the impact on industrial development, I think Mr. Jamie Gilbert has addressed that we're trying to bring new industry in and going up on the impact fees for sewer is going to be hindrance to that bringing new industry in. New developments, I don't think it's going to matter. Like Mr. Davis said, the one thing we can do on 130 is we're not going to run a sewer. We're not going to pay for it anyway. The county's not going to pay for sewer up to that development on 130. And I don't think new developments are going to stop. I mean, most of the area around the lake, Lake Kiwi, are septic tanks, so lack of sewer didn't stop that development. And I don't think lack of sewer will stop housing developments. It can stop industrial developments if we go up too far on impact fees. Thank you.
All right, we're going to get to everybody's favorite subject, roads. So we'll do, I think, 2 questions there. This one is pretty straightforward. Mr. Davis, who is over the committee to deal with county roads, and how many meetings have been held by that committee this year? I think a minute we'll do here.
Mr. Hart is, and I think it's early on we really have focused on those side roads. You know, when everybody complains about roads, they really have no idea what road, who owns it. At the end of the day, even though whether it's a state road or a county road, or it's our job to make sure we're pushing those complaints where they need to go. You know, I'll stand by saying that we got the best roads group and the best guy over roads. And I'll do anything I can to make sure that he stays here, because you want to talk about conservative government, that guy has used pennies and has done marvelous things with that on your roads. So, you know, next, I won't say his name, but if you look it up, you need to tell him thank you, because he really, truly uses your taxpayer money and stretches it as far as they can.
All right, staying on the subject of roads, Mr. Elliott, it seems over the past 20 years, there has been a growing disparity of county road maintenance between those surrounding Lake Kiwi compared to those surrounding Lake Hartwell. Tabor Road is a prime example of lacking maintenance and unsafe driving conditions. What can be, or what is being done to correct this? Feeling like our tax dollars are not being spent efficiently as they were in the 90s. 2 minutes.
Well, I will say this: the state money, if you drive down to Charleston, Carolina, and I was down there just last week, see what's going on with your tax dollars from the state level. I-26, the state is expanding that interstate 3 lane to 6 lanes, all the way from Charleston all the way up to Greenville, Spartanburg. The reason being is during COVID in California, they couldn't get the trucks out fast enough because of the infrastructure. We have one of the busiest ports in the nation in Charleston. We have an inland port in Greer. The inland port comes by rail. BMW, just to plant BMW, not the suppliers, takes up 100% of that inland port. The rest have to come by truck. And so all that money, and if you go down near Charleston on I-26, they're bridges over swamps. Bridges cost lots of money, and they all have to be replaced. All those bridges are going to have to be replaced. If you go above Columbia, you'll see what's happening. For 26 miles, there's construction going on. That's where all your state dollars are going right now. Local dollars, we're spending every penny we can. Asphalt is skyrocketed, just like oil. Asphalt's a byproduct of oil. Greenville and Spartanburg, I'm not gonna say I'm for a sales tax. Greenville and Spartanburg County had a referendum that approved a 1 cent sales tax. And Spartanburg's gone one step further. They told the state, go to heck. They're gonna fix the state roads and the local roads in Spartanburg County with that tax. They think they'll raise between $150 and $200 million. Greenville's doing the same thing. I'm not saying I want a sales tax, but it takes money to maintain and fix roads. And right now, we do all we can. Every year, I think we added, what, $1 million to the budget just the last month. We added $1 million to the budget, and we're gonna need to continue add mills when we can afford it to maintain our roads. The difference between the lake roads and Lake Hartwell roads, I don't see it. I know 130, you talk about the Lake Road, Kiwi School Road. You ever driven on Kiwi School Road? It's dangerous. With all the bridge is awful. The bridge is awful. So I'm not understanding that question. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Davis, last question on roads for right now. With the increased millage for the Roads and Bridges Fund, what process is the county going to use for selecting roads and bridges to upgrade? How can residents find out when their road or bridge is scheduled for improvement? 2 minutes.
In the last 4 years now, we've paved and have more projects that have been put forth on roads that I've seen. I forget what it actually is, but there was 1 year we've done more than in previous 5, and I think that was last year. We've got 4 projects that we've already approved, money's already allotted for. We start seeing designated funds. You know, it's a very, sometimes you'll see that. I think the Journal runs a thing on there talking about how much money the county has. You'll see designated funds. There's a lot of designated funds for projects, roads. There's actually, I think, 6 road projects that are funded that we're waiting on paving. So you're going to see a lot more movement on those. We've worked a lot on culverts. We've had several of those road projects had to have new culverts installed and the sides of the road to improve. If you live on a road like I do on Cedar Lane Road, it's a lane and a half. So that's why we drive so good out there in Oconee. So because we drive half on the grass and half in the road. So, you know, we can pass a combine like nobody's business. But, you know, that's a big difference when somebody talks about roads. You know, our new roads are wider, which is great. They're marked better. And the safety's improving on those. Something that's not really noted in there is what we've done to improve safety at intersections. And unfortunately, you know, you read where we had one fatality. The size of our stop signs, the brightness of those has improved. We got a lot of people, especially where I live, that are Clemson students that are headed home to Georgia. They have no idea. They have a thing called Waze, and it's drive blind, and they'll go 65 on a 35 road, and there's a couple of curves in there, and I think there's a couple of trees in those curves you have to be careful of. So, you know, but I think that the has continued to improve in our bridges, not just the paving projects that are set forth. I think one thing I wanted to note in there, there's some paving projects. I think it needs to be clear what those paving projects are. DOT has those as well. I think we could put a link to DOT on there. I was just going through on Tabor Road because I know there was some improvement done on there. I know that person that lives on Tabor Road will say, I don't see that improvement, but it is on there. Sometimes it takes 16 months to actually see those projects actually come to fruition.
All right. Okay, thank you. We're going to just do two more, and then I'd like to open up the public comment period because I think we've done 35 maybe questions. So to Mr. Davis, we'll do this just for 1 minute because it should be pretty straightforward. When the Bountyland Fire Station is active, and if you could answer when that will be, I think that's probably soon, will this affect our fire contract with the city of Seneca? 1 minute.
So City of Seneca will not, that area that Bountyland is around is not in that contract. So that will be taken care of by Bountyland, which was another reason why it was very, very important to actually fund firemen in the contract that was removed originally. So not only the original budget did not include funding for those firemen for that fire station. That standalone fire department there represents the highest number of protection class 10. And if you're in insurance, you know, I'll tell you what that means. It means unprotected. So Critter Road, that's how far out Bountyland will reach, all the way to the Critter Road, all the way toward the Ebenezer area. There's more unprotected homes than any fire station we've put forth. So it is a huge, huge growth. I mean, I don't like the use word growth, but it'll actually cut those people's insurance rates almost in half. So once upon a time, somebody told me we're putting all these fire departments in because it was padding the insurance guy's pocket. No, it's taken away because, you know, I know, for example, I have one home out there on Critter Road, pays about $2,800 for insurance. It'll be about $700. So he'll be pretty happy.
All right. And then Mr. Elliott, final question, then we'll move to public comments. It was reported, I'm not saying it's false, I haven't heard this, but it was reported that there is a 41% vacancy rate in the fire and rescue department. It seems Oconee County is a training ground for other counties when it comes to fire and EMS. Please comment.
Yes, and I have to applaud here again, Mr. Durham and his new budget. He did increase the sheriff, the fire department, emergency services significantly to the point now that I think we're paying more than maybe the city of Seneca is paying the firemen. In the past, we have been behind and we have been robbed. What's required now for a fireman is, I think, is it 180 hours? It's either 120 or 180 hours of training. A huge investment you have to put into a fireman. And so to all of a sudden be the training ground and have people stealing your workers was unacceptable. So I think that's one of the good things that came out of the budget that we finally passed was that we did raise the firemen's salaries, and maybe we'll start stealing firemen from other places. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both so much for that. And again, I have all of the submitted questions right over here, and Mr. Mann is going to distribute them as well, starting tonight for anyone interested in that. I believe the schedule says 8:30 and to stop at 8:45. So we can go ahead and get a 7-minute head start, and then
Can I get a 2-minute break for, if y'all will allow? I did not wear my diaper tonight, so thank you.
all right, whenever Mr. Davis comes back, we will pick it right back up. In just 1 second, when Mr. Elliott gets back up here. Frankie. Front. All right, folks, we are about to get started. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think I'll try to do a minute and a half, and please don't ask 4 questions in one. If you could restrict yourself to that. All right, we are going to get started now. So, Mr. Frankie Pearson, please ask your question and direct it to who you would like to answer it. Step up, please.
This will be for both of you. Being a veteran, this county and state doesn't do enough for our veterans. Here we have one little veteran in November. I don't understand why the county couldn't have another day at the beginning of the year sometime in maybe April, May, or something like that to honor the people that gives you the freedom to sit in those chairs, us to sit in these chairs for that matter. Is there anything that you two could do to help honor our veterans more that we have in Oconee County?
I'm on a
1 minute
schedule.
for Mr. Davis.
I'm gonna schedule an event on Saturday that you can attend. Actually, it's already scheduled, so I'm just joking. But there's an event at South Cove Park for veterans. So, there's a lot of things that go on. We got one of the best departments around here for what they do and continue to do. We can always do more, and we need to continue to do more to honor them and help them. But the stories I've heard from other counties on the lack of what their area does, especially in regards to veteran benefits, our area does a lot to sit down with them and help. So, but I do think we need to do a better job of, keeping y'all in the forefront moving forward. Thank you for that. And thank you for your service too.
All right, Mr. Elliott, just 1 minute, if you would, if you'd like to respond.
I think we need to, as a county government, encourage citizens to help veterans out. I know there was a group of people, I don't know if they still do it, that used to take veterans that did not have the transportation to get down to the Veterans Hospital in Anderson County. I think we need to encourage people to do that, to honor the veterans. I know we do let veterans use the parks, the county parks, for free, but we need to do more of that. I think we also need to just remember, like you said, we wouldn't be here without you guys. And I see several folks wearing their hats tonight, and I salute you and thank you for your service. And let's remember those that did make it back. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Frankie. And Miss Jody Gollin, please ask your question.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank the Republican Party for organizing this. We are in bad need for having more town halls with our political leaders. We've seen this shut down over the last few years where citizens of both parties, or all 3 parties in the case of Oconee County, because really we have a 3-party system now, to have a chance to talk. It's just a disappointment that we don't have all represented. I'd like to recognize Keith Peebles. He's one of the people who does a lot for veterans with transportation and help with paperwork. He's here. So since that just came up, Frankie, wanted to recognize him. One thing, I just wanted to make a couple of comments before I ask a question, if y'all indulge me. But we feel like we can find commonality if we talk about issues. We may not always agree, but we should be able to meet together, and I've tried to meet as many people as I can today, and talk about issues and ensure that we have good government. We have about 35 to 40% of the county that is Democratic, and as I say in chamber meetings, that's your customers too. And we have to think about that, even though we haven't we have 2 parties represented on county council now in effect, but you represent Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents also, and I know that I can talk to you guys right there. I also want to point out that the ARPA money that's been spoken about so many times today, not a single Republican in our congressional delegation in South Carolina voted for the American Rescue Plan Act money. So my question to you, I agree with you, Julian. If the federal government's giving out money, let's get it. But what we have to ask ourselves is, all of this talk about condemning spending out of Washington, that if this money had not come to this county, what would you guys have done? What would our city councils have done to fund these major infrastructure projects? And thanks for giving that money to the municipalities. And I think one.
Yeah, look, just because we got other people, if you want to
I
get.
understand, but
What's your most important question, Jody, is what he's trying to say.
well, I got a bunch of them.
That's-
But anyway, thanks for having this forum. But my question is, we have county parks that were just mentioned. I was living here when those county parks were funded by Duke Power. They were built by Duke Power and funded by Duke Power. When I was growing up, we had lifeguards. We had all kind of great amenities. And obviously, we don't have that same kind of operation budget in those county parks now, and it shows. So are there any plans to improve the county parks from the improvements on the capital side have been wonderful, wonderful. But we, like you mentioned several times, we have to operate what we build. You can't build a fire department without firemen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's 1 minute each so we can just move this along.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ms. Jody.
touching base on parks real quick, parks were ignored. And, I told somebody one time, because they were like, man, y'all put a lot of in parks. And, to some, that's their only vacation. To a lot of us, we put our boats in there and we leave. But to a lot of our citizens, especially our middle and lower income, that's their vacation. And it's a pretty awesome spot, every single park, for what we've done. And if, these improvements have taken place because of funding that was put in place. So that's where that money came from. So I am very blessed to actually have led that. I appreciate Mr. Elliott, and his leadership in that as well. But Phil Shirley, another great person that has really made sure boat landings, we've put a lot of emphasis. That's quality of life. Some people say that's a waste of money. And I'm telling you what, if you go to any of these parks, you'll see how many of your citizens, your friends, and your employees use those parks on a daily basis, all year long.
Let's go to Mr. Elliott. 1 minute, please.
So on the parks, right now we're almost at a point where they're self-supporting, and once we get to that point, I believe we can start doing some more other than capital improvements. I was a lifeguard for 7 years. That was my summer job, and so I believe in lifeguards. I believe in safety. So I think that's a wonderful idea. I actually read there's a shortage of lifeguards right now, so I've thought about going back to work, but maybe they can't even hire me as a lifeguard. But yeah, I think we're doing a great job. Okay. Anyway, I think we're doing a great job on the Capitol, but I agree with you. I think there's a lot that we can do that we enhance it and also enhance safety. Thank you.
I just had an image of you running across
Let's stop right there.
Fall Beach, saving somebody. So I'm just saying,
Okay.
you saved the kid though, John. In my image, you saved him.
Mr. Moore, I'm going to give you, just so we can move it on, 1 minute to ask the question. Thank you.
Real quick, 2 questions. Number one, is Glenn Hart over a committee of the roads for the county, and how many meetings has he had? And number 2, did Sewer South just go from 12.7 million to 24.7 million?
We'll do 1 minute. Mr. Davis, if you would like to go first.
Yeah, Glenn Hart is over the roads committee. Has been over that since he's got on council. I don't know how many meetings he's had or not had. Sewer South, in the bond includes exits 1, 2, and 4. That's where that 25 comes from. So the funding in regards to the ARPA money and the cash money the county was putting forth for the funding for Sewer South Phase 1 is now put back into economic development.
Mr. Elliott, 1 minute.
So on Mr. Hart and the Roads Committee, he has not met this year at all. Don't believe he met last year either. I'm not positive. One time, Frank says one, but I know he hasn't met this year. All the committees are supposed to meet quarterly. Typically, if there's no business, then they don't have a meeting, but as you know, there's plenty to talk about when it comes to roads. So anyway, there's not been a meeting so far this year.
All right, Mr. Bright, if you would take up to 1 minute to ask your question.
Thank you,
I'd appreciate it.
Riley. Gentlemen, you have mentioned in several different interviews, John and Julian, that you want to see the citizens come and participate in the county council meetings. But there's an issue when citizens show up that has been noted on a video several times in the last 6 months watching the county council meetings, that a select few are creating a disruption in the back of the council chambers, whether they're laughing or they're saying ugly words to people in council. How can you address this issue where citizens feel safe to come to a council meeting and address their elected officials and their grievances when you've got certain members of the council chambers that are saying things to other people, laughing, cutting up, and sending text messages, which appears to be to the chairman, Matt Durham?
1 minute, Mr. Elliott, looking like
Let me
you're
go
ready
first.
to go.
So for 2.5 years, past 2.5 years, I was chairman of county council. I started out the meeting, the first thing I did was I had a paragraph that I read off that basically said that you have 2 times to speak in council chambers. One is public comments and one is a public hearing, if there is one. The remainder of the meeting, you remain silent. If not, you'll be asked to leave the meeting for the rest of the meeting. That piece of paper that I read from is still in the seat between me and Mr. Durham, but he's not reading it anymore. I don't know why. It also says that partisan political activity is illegal inside county chambers. I read that out too for 2.5 years. It's not being done anymore. We do have, thank goodness, we do have the sheriff's deputies there. And so if somebody gets out of hand, the chairman can ask somebody to leave, but that's not happening.
Mr. Davis, 1 minute.
Yeah, and in being chairman, I've had people stand up and they disagree with something, and so they're challenging me, and I let them have their 4 minutes or whatever, and I may respond or may not after we finish public comment session to make sure that we're not, harping on the free speech rule. But I think, some clarity that was actually put in forth, so the little thing turning around saying 1 minute, that was actually my idea, so we didn't have to interrupt somebody when they were talking. But I found it interesting that there's times when certain people will come up and they're saying something that someone doesn't like, and that's an immediate, I'm going to stop that person, but I'm going to allow certain things that happen that change the decorum. So we actually changed the back 2 rows of that seating assignment down there, since I sit in the same place. So we got a little button that we'll push that'll give them a little surprise. And I'm just kidding, but no, it's one of those things that I think we each control our own behavior and everything that we do. It's noticeable to the general public. Is it an issue? Yes. Does it look bad on the council? No. Does it look bad on the individual? Yes. But I know there's some statements that have been made that there's going to be some corrections. And again, it's not somebody playing somebody's daddy, but it's, if we're trying to do this thing together and we're doing good things at this county, that's what it should be about, not poking fun at somebody for the way they walk or the way they talk or something like that.
All right.
Let me have 30 seconds. So we have, on economic development, we have people coming in, looking at Oconee County, that come into council meetings. You can spot them every time because they're wearing suits. They're watching. They're watching the conduct of the citizens, they're watching the conduct of the council, and they're making decisions right there. Do they want to come to Oconee County? And so behavior like that is unacceptable, and it's really hurting everyone. So it's got to stop.
All right, seeing no one else in line, I would like to ask Mr. Tony Adams, do you have any interest in asking anything before I get blistered on the P-ramble for my moderating? I'm being serious though. Do you have anything Mr. Cruz, would you like to ask anything? Are you good? Okay. If you, I can give you one
Listen.
question if you want to do one question.
Nah, we'll give him two. It's 8:43. Listen, he's fought. He
No. But in all seriousness, do you or Mr. Cruz have anything you'd like to?
Yes. Tony, you get one question. You came all this way. You get one question.
Cruz, anything? Okay, just wanted to extend that opportunity. I'm just going to give it to Mr. Mann to close us out. Thank you all for being patient with me, and I enjoyed it. So, y'all have a good night.
So I want to thank everybody for being here. Give another round of applause for Julian Davis, John Elliott, and Riley, everybody who came. I agree with Jody 100%. More of these type of events is good for our county. It's good for our citizens. So please encourage everybody else when they have an opportunity to come. If you want to come to that point, we're having a Lindsey Graham town hall on the 21st of November in Pickens County with Anderson, Pickens, and Oconee County working together on that one. So keep an eye out for that. You have an opportunity to come to that. Thank you everybody again for coming. I appreciate everybody's respectful decorum during the meeting, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.